All right, so I'm going to record this. Sorry if it's annoying. Okay. Today is my 28th birthday, and I feel old. Honestly, I feel a little bit old. It's kind of a lie. The day I'm recording this is my last day of being 27. I didn't want to actually have to record and edit this thing on my real birthday, so I'm recording it on my last day of 27, and then tomorrow, which is now today that you're watching this, is my 28th birthday. Wow, I can't even get the years right. So yes, if you didn't know, I'm born on Christmas Eve, and today is the day. The sun is shining, the tank is clear. It is a weird feeling. I think I was a little more, feeling strange last year. This year, it's not so much that I'm like getting old. It's just like, I feel so young. I feel like I'm still 22 and freshly out of college. And if anything, the last few years, I've been like on this journey to heal my inner child. And I feel like I've been into more childlike hobbies and just really craving very simple things. Whereas the first 21 years of your life, you're craving really intense grown-up things. Like, I want to be independent and drink alcohol, and I want to date people, and I want to go. And then you do all that and you're like, okay, now I just want to have a sleepover and watch Princess Diaries with my best friends and cuddle and have popcorn and talk about boys. It's just so funny how getting older, I don't know, makes you reflect on things, and you end up wanting to go back a bit, right? And be childlike. But I have lots of thoughts today. I'm very much in my feels, and I have quite a few reflections about this year. And I thought it would just be really fun to share some of these with you. Now, please, if you are listening to this actually on the day that it is being released on Christmas Eve, listen to it on a quick drive, but don't let this soak up any of your family or holiday time. Go have fun with friends and family. This is just my little monologue for you. If you are maybe in the same stage of life, or you're nervous about growing up a little bit, or maybe you're older than me and have some words of wisdom you can impart, I am all here for it. But we are going to jump in with some pretty mushy gushy things, but just a really easy podcast about what I learned this year and kind of how I'm going to remember this year, and maybe a wish or two for the next year of life. So without further ado, time for the theme song.
That was robotic.
It's time for the theme song. I'm still a child. All right, so I feel like I'm a very visual person, and when it comes to remembering things in my life, I really need to look back at photos to cue all the memories, especially of the good things that have happened, and be reminded of bad things, good things, just like what life actually was, which is kind of crazy because we do live in this, social media culture, and Instagram plays a big role in what we put out to show others. But my personal camera roll is very close to me, because that is how I literally remember life, especially in these last few years where it's felt so jumbled and chaotic, but also full and beautiful. So I was going back through my camera roll, trying to remember how this year went, how I'm going to keep this in mind, going forward. And I also kind of think this, video will maybe serve as a time stamper. And a couple years down the road, when I'm like, oh yeah, how was year 27? I can come back and watch this. So this is kind of my way of remembering the year. I have 27 things, 27 defining moments. Some are just themes, but this is kind of the way I guess I'm remembering my 27th year of life. The first thing was kind of the shocker, was getting a tattoo. I have never been someone who was like, oh my gosh, I have to have a tattoo. Or I'm just not put together. I've never been that person. There was one or two that I really wanted for a long time, through high school. And then I just kind of lost not the desire to have that specific emblem, but I was just I don't know, just was not a priority for a while. So when this year and this summer came around and I had the opportunity to get a tattoo, I was like, cool. It doesn't feel like a rushed decision. It doesn't feel like something I have to have. It was just kind of a unique choice. And I was like, I am allowed to make choices about my own body. And it was kind of a cool one to decide that. And it kind of shocked myself. I was a little surprised at me. But I will definitely remember this year of that, okay, I'm allowed to make these decisions. What I think is interesting, and in my reflections post tattoo, I don't know how many people think this deeply about getting one, but I was like, I think it's interesting that when you have something happen to you, like an accident, and you get a scar, that whenever someone sees that scar going forward, they will usually say, oh my gosh, how'd you get that scar? And then you share the story, and then they usually say, wow, you're so brave, you're so strong, what a cool testimony, something like that. But when you get a tattoo, sometimes people will say, oh, what's the tattoo? Tell me about it. And other times people will just straight up judge and be like, you got a tattoo? Like, what's that about? And I think it's so interesting, and it's in my brain, like a commentary on how we view what happens to you versus who and what you choose to make happen. Yeah. And so those are my reflections. So it's kind of fun to participate in having a tattoo because it's something I chose to do versus all the other things that life throws at you are just things that happen to you and you have to just kind of figure out a way forward. But that's my very random, deeper thought on a tattoo. But back to it because we don't have a ton of time here. Other things that define this year, seeing the Eiffel Tower sparkle at night. That was pretty amazing. Rainy Italian cigarette with the Duomo in the background. So I am not telling people to go smoke cigarettes, but it is very, very common for people in Europe to do that. And someone on the street was like, you want a pack of cigarettes? And we're like, sure, I guess, whatever. And so we had one or two and it was pretty underwhelming. I was not, I prefer a cigar because they actually taste better. But what was cool about it was seeing the Duomo in Florence, Italy on our balcony in the rain. And I was like, this is magical. Like, this is a defining moment. Okay. Now, flipping switches a little bit, another defining moment was traveling solo out of the country. That was my first time going to Banff, Canada this year. It was my first time going solo out of the country. And I say solo because I flew solo, but like I had people that I was staying with. But it was really cool. And it was a fun moment that I'll definitely remember for forever. And that was a fun trip in general. I think on the same vein of that, hiking on this foggy trail in Banff, it was very Twilighty. It was a very cool, big defining moment. Bonfire moment with creatives at a sold out workshop that I was hosting. Wow. Like that was so fun. I had this photography workshop that I was conducting and hosting, and I wanted it to be an overnight experience to really get photographers out of the work mindset and into the rest mindset. And hi, buddy. Appa's exploring behind me. And it was so, so sweet. And I will definitely remember sitting around a bonfire with all those creatives and just being like, yeah, I made this happen. Like God made this happen, but then I made this happen, but then it's all happening and it's happening. Very fun. Okay. Solitude is a theme that I've definitely been kind of wiggling with this year. I wouldn't say solitude has defined the year, but I'm definitely, as I get older, learning how to intentionally create solitude and moments of time to be alone, but also just trying to be more comfortable with that. That's a whole podcast episode for another day. But it is a theme of this year, along with sunset bike rides, sourdough bread. My husband and I have this moment in August. We were on our way back from our friend's wedding and we hadn't seen each other all week because I was traveling out of the country. I finally get back. We go to this wedding and it was like a 2-hour drive home, and we rolled down the windows, had a warm August breeze, and listened and belted to Disney Channel original songs, including High School Musical. That was a core memory from this year for sure. Eating crepes in Italy and Paris. La 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 la. Actually, just Paris, not Italy, but crepes. Defining moment for the year. Staring at my computer. If we're just being honest, I had the majority of my days were spent staring in front of my computer working on photography edits. But that's just work, right? That's part of life. Walking over the Brooklyn Bridge with my AirPods in, specifically listening to the book The Silent Patient. Defining moment of the year. Very good. I mean, it didn't have to be that book, but just like, again, the solitude, the exploration, a lot of fun, and the anxiety. I was really nervous my AirPods were going to slip out, fall down the cracks into the traffic and then into the river, and I would never see them again. But that's fine. Okay, another thing that I will remember from this year, I took myself on a solo date to see a Broadway show randomly in the summertime when I was on my trip to New York, and it was awesome. And I highly recommend it. Don't feel weird if you buy a single ticket to see a Broadway show. Don't feel weird if you're sitting next to strangers, because guess freaking what? I was sitting 5 rows back from the orchestra pit, and I got to see my dream Broadway crush, Jeremy Jordan, live and in the flesh. Like, wow. Also, the word flesh, it just occurred to me how gross that word is. Live in person. Who needs to say flesh? Okay, we're going back for more of my 27 defining moments. Bottle feeding kittens, our kittens. When we started this year, we had 2 cats, and I was like, I'm content. I love our 2 cats. They're great. And now here we are ending the year with 4 cats. Completely unplanned, but that's just life, baby. We obviously, you've heard the story with Sokka and Spoon. We rescued them from Ian's family. They rescued them. We just adopted them because they were like, we have too many pets already. And they are the sweetest little boys, and they cause so much chaos. But they were itty bitty teeny tiny. I think I actually have an episode on here that's called Sad Get a Kitten. And it's like sad ? Get a kitten ! And you can see how little they were when we adopted them. They were so little small and a little tiny bottle of milk. They were so cute. And yes, so kittens are a defining moment of our year for sure. Holding a baby on the beach. Now, we love a good beach moment and we love a good baby, but I had the privilege, the honor of holding my friends Julie and Nathan's child, Max, on the beach in Laguna Beach, California. What am I saying? He is so perfect, and he has the chunkiest little face, and he's so stinking cute. And I have the same voice for kittens and babies, obviously, but that was a huge win for India's serotonin this year, and it was just so cute. We got to like watch the waves together, and he had a cute little sun hat on. I love my friends as babies. Okay, having an espresso martini, also looking at the Eiffel Tower, iconic. Riding up to see the Zurich mountains in Switzerland on a train with friends Kira and Killian. Love. Like, my life this year, there's been a lot of things that have gone wrong, but we're not really going to talk about those too much. But these things, like, don't they sound like not real? Like, I feel like I'm reading the script of someone's like movie life, but it has been a really fun, eventful, adventurous year. Like, overall, minimal complaints. And the only complaints I have are things I can't control. So we're okay. All right. My espresso martini. Okay. Going to therapy. That was just a theme of this year. Big old chunky theme. I can't really say more than that, but it's been a theme. And I do think mental health is really, really important, and it needs to be something that's not stereotyped or stigmatized. And I really, really think it's benefited me to have consistent counseling, therapy, people that I can go to, mentors, friends, whatever. But I also really just wonder and dream, what would the world be like if all the adults, if all the presidents of countries, were seeking like counsel, like real doctor level, like wise counsel. Just a thought, just a food for thought. All right. Devouring a mango in Los Angeles, California. I cannot talk today. California. Now, I'm not talking about just like a mango. We went to this organic market called Mother's, which was stupid expensive. I think this mango was $5. I'm not joking. But it was the largest mango. And I was like, I would like this one, please. And it was the juiciest, most delicious mango. So we sat on the beach and ate it. And I ate the whole thing. I'm not even going to joke. It was perfect. And I forget how good mangoes are because we don't get the ripe good ones. I feel like all the way out here in Ohio, like we get some at the store, but they're all chemically and whatever. They're just not as good. And they're really freaking good. I do think mangoes are my favorite fruit, just in case you were wondering. Okay, another theme of this year, hosting in general. I like seeing people. I feel like our house is such a blessing because we've been able to host. My brother and sister are currently here at this moment. We host friends as much as we can. We've hosted our small group. We've hosted clothing swaps in the front yard. We've hosted neighbors for bonfires. We've hosted people who've just moved to the state or just leaving the state. We've hosted people on their way to, move to a different place. And we are very grateful to have the space that we do to be able to host people. And that was definitely a theme of this year as well. Podcasting, you guys. I didn't know where this thing was going to go. I don't know where it's going to go in the future. I don't know if I should call it a podcast, a YouTube channel. I don't know if I should just ditch one and do one or the other. But it has been a journey and it has been fun because I've been consistent this whole year with this thing. I think maybe I missed 1 week, maybe 2 total. But what that means is almost consistently for an entire year, every week, sitting in front of this very camera and chatting to you about life. And I think that's been a fun, ongoing theme of this whole year. Soup recipes, another theme. I love a good soup. I love making food. Did I get through the list? I kind of went out of order, guys. Oh, another defining moment. The eclipse. You guys remember that thing? When the entire sun blacked out for a second? I think we moved past that pretty quickly. That was a cool moment. I got to see it with my aunt and my brother up in Cleveland at this cool thing that NASA was doing. Very unique experience. 10 out of 10 for that moment. Okay, is that 27? I have dirty martini with popcorn. That wasn't really a defining moment. It's just a new snack that I started enjoying. I don't know why I wrote this on here. Yeah, oh my gosh. I went through, I have one more. 2 more. Trying and failing to be consistent at crafts. I have like 5 or 6 half done projects, like a half knit sweater and a half crocheted doll. I have a painting that's 3/4 of the way done. I just got some oil paints to play with here in a second. That's kind of an ADHD brain thing, but it is the theme of this year, is always being like, what should my hobby be? And getting like this far into it before going, I don't know if this is my hobby. Maybe we'll get there one day. And the last thing that took up some space this year, aside from work, obviously, was audiobooks. I don't know. Again, that's not like a defining moment. I should have made some better choices this year. Oh, hand cramping. I thought it said camping. We did go camping a lot. We went to West Virginia for camping. We camped in Mohican, but that's like our yearly thing. We just traveled a lot, which is a great thing, honestly. Like my ideal life scenario would be working really hard and really aggressively towards something that I'm deeply passionate about that, would be amazing if it has a direct tie into, sustainability and cutting back on consumption, because I think that furthers the kingdom of God by furthering the flourishing of God's people. And then traveling, like those 2 things hand in hand. That's kind of the life I want. Anyway, so that's kind of my year in moments. Now I am super sentimental and a total nerd about this. So I would like to share, for anyone who's listening, who's getting scared about growing up a little bit, 27 things that I learned this year. Here we go. Number 1, before I say these, this is in no specific order. This is just things I learned this year. I learned that you can do anything at all you put your mind to. You just cannot do it all at once. And I'm going to kind of have to keep coming back to this episode to hear myself say that, because I am someone who's like, I want to do a little bit of everything. I want my life to be a multitude of things and experiences. I really, really hate when people say niche down and know your niche and, you have to find your box and stick in it. I just don't like the cog in the wheel mindset. I would much rather know that life is full and beautiful and bountiful and we can experience a multitude of things. But I also know there's a lot of culture that is built around sticking to one thing, perfecting that, and excelling. So I think this kind of phrase, this idea of you can literally do anything, helps me feel a little more free from that box mentality. But then the second half of just not all at once helps remind me that I need to stay focused on one task at a time. But that task over time can change. That objective can change. And I think that's a more healthy way of looking at it. But isn't that so odd that I'm literally talking about my inability to stay focused on one craft? And then that's the first lesson I learned this year. Okay, I learned that a nuanced approach is possibly the most wise one. It's just from almost 28-year-old me to you. Some people don't come back around in your life, and that's okay. Or at least I'm learning to accept that that will be okay. Growing up is often kind of lonely. That's something that I kind of alluded to with the solitude theme. It just is. And maybe this will be another episode for another day, but growing up and friendships and making friends as an adult and all that can be really lonesome sometimes. Being an entrepreneur is kind of lonely too. There's a lot of freedom, but it also can mean just you hanging out by yourself, working really hard, really late, and working on days that other people have off and having days off when other people have to work. And that's part of it. So learning a lot about this. Oh, okay. Another lesson I learned: holding my friends' babies makes me happy and reminds me that I'm also good to wait on kids for a while. I really do love other people's babies, and I love that they are other people's babies. I'm just not in that phase yet, and I love holding them for an hour and then going, here you go. You can take them back now. Love them so much, though. We have more that unites us than divides us in general as a world, but usually we choose to ignore that. That's some India wisdom for you. Yeah, I think that thought probably came out of the election time. And I hope I echo anyone who's listening to this. I think I have a deep desire for unity and peace amongst people. And it gets really, really frustrating when you're trying to exist and then people on the internet are trying to exist and we can't seem to find a common ground way forward. It's all like blah, 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 you, me, and my rights and your opinions and blah. And I'm like, can we literally just admit that there are so many more things that we all can 100% agree on, or even 90% agree on, but we just choose to like ignore those main things. We'd rather talk about these teeny tiny issues that are way off here on the sides and the extremes of policy. I don't know. I'm not a politician, but those are just my thoughts. Another lesson: there's usually more to be hopeful for than to fear. And yeah, there's a lot to fear. But again, on that same line of like, let's look for the positives here. There's a lot to be hopeful for. If you are someone who follows the Lord, I think in the Christian faith, there's something so unique that really sets apart the Christian faith than pretty much any other faith. And that is the promise of Jesus returning and making all things new. All the things that currently exist being redeemed, restored, and made new. That is so unique and different than any other religion that I'm aware of. And I think that brings so much hope into the world, that brings so much joy and momentum when you're looking forward to this renewed, restored world, this renewed kingdom of God. That's something that I can be excited about versus just being like, well, there's, natural disaster and there's all these terrible things and policy, and I don't know what kind of world my kids are going to grow up in. That's all scary stuff. Like, I'm legitimately nervous about some of those things, but the hope for me of what Jesus promises in Scripture will and does outweigh the fear of all this other stuff that's going on, So that's my little gospel message for you today. Okay, here's some self-reflection. I want to make everyone happy all of the time, and it's impossible, but I do know that about myself. I make it my mission when I am in the room with somebody to get to know what they need in that moment. Do they need someone to be empathetic? Do they need someone to just listen? Do they need someone to be funny? Do they need someone to back away? Do they think that I'm too much or too little? And I try to make everyone feel comfortable and confident and seen. And I think I just bonus points. Like, if I can make them laugh, I feel like I win. I'm like, if I can make that person smile, I made their day better. Yeah, maybe that's a problem. Maybe I should just loosen up a little bit, but I don't know why. I've noticed that about myself, especially this year. Maybe it's also because I am alone all the time working with myself. And then when I actually see another human, I'm like, how can we be best friends? But that's a little intense. Okay. Another thing I learned: traveling always puts me in a better place. That's just the tea. My perspective changes. I'm more motivated when I come back and I feel more aligned with my faith. I have a recent episode all about our trip recently and kind of some of my perspective on travel in general. So you can hear more about my thoughts on that there. Another lesson. Okay. Sorry. I don't know why I can't like read down the line in my notes. There's nothing like a big hug from an old friend. And that's just true. It's something that I cherish every time it happens. Cats apparently are my pet of choice. I have 4 of them. We have 4 of them. They come into our lives. And while I was recording this 5 seconds ago, a black cat walked across our lawn and I was like, do you have a home? Do you need someone to care for you? Because we could do that. Okay, another lesson. If you're offering your best, people will be attracted to that. That is more than just like a person-to-person thing. I think that is also work advice, networking. When you're out there doing what you can do to the best of your ability, someone somewhere is going to go, I see that in you. I love that about you. Let's do this together. Scary things aren't so scary when you break them into smaller pieces. I don't know what context I was thinking of when I wrote that, but I think it's just true. There are a handful of causes that I will always deeply care about and urge others to as well. And almost all of them involve people and the planet. Eek. Lots to work towards. Grilled olives are amazing. This is something that I learned this year. It's also very spiritual and theological. Clearly, it's on my list. They are. I was checking out of Trader Joe's once and the cashier with her cool Hawaiian shirt was like, oh, I see you like olives. Have you tried those grilled olives? And I was like, what grilled olives? And she was like, those ones. And I was like, oh my gosh, hold my stuff. I'm going to go get them. And I grabbed like 3 jars, came home and I ate the whole jar in one day. Guys, it's true. They are my preferred form of olive at this point. It's just one of the best olives I've ever had. Get yourself a jar. Okay. God, even in silence, is kind. That's just, back to the theology one. New York City will always be that girl. Going to a little low-light restaurant in an unassuming building and overpaying for lukewarm temperature food but great flavor will always put me in a better mood. That's just true. I would thrive if I lived in Southern LA or Southern California. I just think that's yeah, I could see myself there for sure. Eating mangoes on the beach, being tan, holding children. As much as I want to be a book reader, I'm not that focused. That's just an ADHD thing, I think, unfortunately. But hopefully going forward, I can unlearn this. I will say at the beginning of this year, I was really doing it with the book thing. I was reading a lot of physical books. I was joining this book club. Then somewhere around the summertime when my work started picking up and my season got busier, I just was like, I can't do it as much. So I tapped into audiobooks a little bit more, but I just haven't really gotten back into the swing of things with reading. I'd like to change that. People are better offline. I like working and I need rest. I'm learning so much. Camping fixes most minor problems and some major ones too. I feel like I felt super poetic when I wrote all these down, but now that I'm reading them out loud, it feels like a Hallmark card or like those things you'd see in like a middle-aged mother's like home, like printed on the Hobby Lobby signs. Wine will always make me smile. Wait. Speaking of, like, my mother-in-law has a cute sign that she had up for Halloween and it said, "Hocus pocus, I need wine to focus." I love you, Paula. It was so cute. All right. Cooking is like crafting. It's super fun to make something from nothing, but I still hate the cleanup process. Cuddling with your spouse and your pets. See, there's another cat outside. It's a white one. It's not. Okay, so that's 2 cats I've seen in 30 minutes. They're coming for me. Back to my lessons. Cuddling with your spouse and your pets is kind of the antidote to stress. I'm literally talking about it as the cat is appearing. That's amazing. Therapy is 90% just you talking out loud, and most of the time it works. And my number 27 says spend some money. Getting out of the house is really good for you. I don't mean spend some money in a consumerism way, but yeah, I think I've talked about this before on here. I used to think literally the game of life was like to not spend any money, see how little you could spend, save, Dave Ramsey all the way. And that would mean you'd be lonely all the time, or you'd go out with friends and just order water or whatever. And you do what you got to do if you're in that season. But sometimes if I'm just like a little depressed or stressed and a friend invites me to do something and I'm like, yeah, I can spend $10 and go hang out with you at this park or go to this movie with you or go grab a bite to eat or a milkshake or a coffee. Spending that little bit of money, like that is why we work. That's the whole purpose is to, go and participate in life. And I think it's really good and really healthy. And so, yeah, I'm encouraging anyone who's in their extreme budgeting era, or even just like a lot of my friends are in the new mom phase and they've got kids everywhere. And I'm like, go out of the house, take everyone out for dinner. Don't clean up dishes. Like, just go treat yourself for a minute, because sometimes that can just change your environment, re-inspire your brain, reset everything in your nervous system, and be a blessing. So those are my little lessons. I think that was 27. I'm not quite sure. Again, don't think I can count very well. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, well, I guess those are the things that I learned this year. I'm excited for next year. I think it's going to be really fun. I don't really have any big revelations right now, but maybe for the New Year's episode, I'll have some things to share with goals going forward. But for now, I'm grateful to have another year on this planet. And I guess I'll just see you on the other side. Thanks, guys, for listening. I am old now, and I appreciate you being here, and I hope you have the best Christmas Eve ever.